When I was 1, my mom left my dad for the coke dealer next door. Hi, my name is Autumn, and I'm telling my story in the hopes that something I say can make somebody else feel less alone. I feel it's important to tell my story in order to bring darkness into the light, because silence is only giving power to the wrong people. From the ages of 1 to 6, I lived with my mother in and out of different places and on and off of the street. She experienced schizophrenia in a very real way and was self medicating her way through life in some pretty serious uh, drug situations. When I was 9, my dad finally had the opportunity to get full custody of me after a pretty serious event that happened. And in my book, I write about it. It's called Voices in the Fan. And it's during a week period where my mother was supposed to be supervised visiting with me by her mother, my grandmother. And my grandmother lied to my dad and said she was going to be around and be supervising, and she went on a cruise. And so I was left alone with my mom. And if you remember, I talk about my mom's side of the family, they spent a lot of their life with her in denial of what was actually going on. They really just believed she was an addict, and that if she just got away from the people that were giving her drugs, she would be okay. And unfortunately, that was very far from the truth. But at the time, and in that era of time, mental health issues and illnesses were not something that people understood. And so I don't blame my family for that. It was situational, and it was the way that they were raised. And, this is all generational cycles that happen. There's a reason why my mom was so sick and so dysfunctional, and her mental illness was hereditary. And it's carried on within my family. And one of the reasons I don't have children, because I was too afraid that I would pass that on to my children. And I couldn't, in good conscience, do that. So during this week period of time, she started to hear voices in the fan. And she was seeing things and hearing these voices, and they were telling her to take me away and hide me from my father, and telling me to do drugs and to just a lot of things that were just really, they didn't make any sense, but it was a psychotic type of a break. She beat me if I didn't hear those voices. And until I smartened up and realized that I've got to tell her that I've heard those voices and try to make things up, I was getting pretty severely beaten. And when I didn't say what they said, she knew I was lying. And this went on for quite a while. And the drugs, cocaine, wine, cigarettes, they just kept coming in cycles. And when she would pass out, I would manage to go into my grandmother's office and use the phone and call my dad's business manager, who I called my Uncle Paul. He was the closest thing I had to an Uncle Paul, and he was quite lovely. And I loved him very, very much. But he was just a business associate of my dad's. He was not family. He had no ability to do anything or intervene legally or otherwise. And as I said, those days, fathers didn't have a lot of rights. And he was struggling with his own custody battles at that time. So he did the best that he could. But it took several days for him to reach my father. And once my dad was reached, he got in touch with my great aunt and uncle, my grandmother's sister, and they concocted a plan to get me out of there. And once I was out, I was put in the hospital for several days. I was severely beaten and bruised and had internal bleeding, and my face, I was unrecognizable. And it's pretty horrific. And I'm really glad that I got out in time, because I think if that hadn't happened, if I hadn't made those choices to try and sneak in and sneak those calls in, and I got in trouble once. She caught me one time, and that was really awful. But I managed to get the word out, and I was saved. But if not, I don't know where I would be today, because she was taking me and we were going to be gone. So Voices in the Fan talks about this story, and in a little more detail. It talks about my dad's trip, his second wife, who was involved and in the picture at that time. And she wasn't into having kids around. So she was quite young. And so that was a challenge as well. But I looked for maternal figures in every girlfriend my dad had, in every secretary my dad had, in every female anything that I came across. I was so desperate for that mother figure that I really reached out for that. And I'm grateful for those short relationships and these beautiful women that came in, even if it was just for a moment, to give me love as a little girl that was just starving for that maternal love. So Voices in the Fan changed everything, because my dad was able to have proof of the abuse, and hospital records and physicals and witness statements. And he was able to finally get custody of me. So from about 10 years old, my dad I was officially his, and I was with him from there on out. I love my dad, and I'm so very grateful for him. I'm so lucky that I had a dad that fought for me. So very lucky. Thank you for listening.